A very good morning from the KTN News Center this Sunday morning, the 15th day of July 2018. Sunday edition begins right now for the next 120 minutes or so. We shall be dissecting the biggest political and governance stories in the Republic. We will talk about Kenya's debt to China, which before 2013, before the Jubilee administration, stood at less than 100 billion Kenya shillings. It has increased 7 times. It now stands at more than 700 billion Kenya shillings, beating both the United Nations and World Bank, becoming China controlling the largest bilateral debt to Kenya. Is Kenya borrowing too much from China? Is Kenya leaning too far east? That is one of our biggest conversations we will have today, this morning. Of course, that coming hot on the heels of more investigations by the Standard, the Sunday Standard at that, on what has been happening at the Standard Gauge Railway with a 5,000-man Chinese army doing the work. Their work permits being extended for 2 more years after their work is set to be completed. That is according to the Standard. And of course, we'll take a look at more of that. But the biggest thing is the bilateral debt to Kenya that is set to increase with more money being borrowed by Kenya from China for the Standard Gauge Railway Phase 2. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the governors, the county governors. They have demanded for immunity from prosecution. They're saying they want to enjoy immunity, just like the head of state. What is your take on that? This, of course, coming against the backdrop of the arrest of the Busia governor, Peter Ojamong. They are claiming that that war on corruption is now being politicized. What is your take on that? We'll get the views from the gentleman and lady on the panel this morning. And also talk about President Uhuru Kenyatta's latest changes. He did bring a few changes on Friday, calling journalists to State House twice. We'll talk about all that. Some analysts saying that there are subtle indications that more is yet to come as President Kenyatta tries to get a tight grip on his legacy and just who will be in charge of that. So we'll talk about all that. My panel is here. Part of it, Kipchumba Karori, lawyer and political strategist. Political analyst and communication expert Mark Bichachi is here with me, as well as Dismas Mokua, political risk analyst. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen. So let's begin with a look at the headlines this Sunday morning. All right, let's begin with the Sunday Standard, and the splash is more on the war against corruption that has been ongoing. More arrests made in the last 48 hours. DPP strikes hard at Kenya Power. This is about the 4.5 billion shillings transformer scandal, and some of those people that have been arrested. Supplier firms and directors of those companies listed there on the front page of the Standard. Also, around 15 managers that are being sought by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, the entire top brass of utility company to be prosecuted for their role in yet another mega scam. As DPP Haji also puts directors of firms awarded tenders on the line. And one of the names that did spring to the attention was Ben Chumo, the ex-managing director of Kenya Power, who has since been nominated by President Uhuru Kenyatta to chair the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, Dismas. What are your initial reactions to this?
Well, no, there have been conversations for the longest time possible that the energy sector is now the new center for impunity, mediocrity, and corruption in Kenya. And, people used to dismiss those remarks and say it's because those parastatals are so rich that everybody would like to have a piece of that. But now it's coming to the surface that, in fact, there is a massive corruption in the energy sector. And then you have people in the streets complaining that whatever Haji has done may compromise the viability of Kenya Power, which I think is a misguided idea, because Kenya Power is a going concern. That if you fire the MD and the top brass, all the board needs to do is to have a meeting tomorrow, and they'll get other people to take on. But what strikes you when you go through the headline, and because Kenya, we are a nation anchored on tribalism, is the names and where they come from. It's very surprising that the Honorable Francis Ole Kaparo has not zoomed into Kenya Power.
All right.
And if he did that, he would be shocked to learn that the suppliers and directors seem to come from one village. There's no way you're going to have national cohesion in Kenya if resources are going to be domiciled in one village. This is the reason why people kill themselves to get into political office. Because you know that if a man from Osocho becomes the cabinet secretary for energy, then I'll be able to supply transformers. Just look at those names. Even when you look at the top management of Kenya Power, it's a tragedy that 90% of the staffers can actually do meetings in their mother tongue. Then how do you expect to have any sort of sanity in an organization like that?
All right.
And in my view, when President Kenyatta says that he's going to kill corruption during his second term, he must not just kill corruption. He must ensure that there is national cohesion, that we respect Chapter 6 and Article 10 of the Constitution, that every single organization in Kenya, be it a parastatal, be it a state department, be it state house, be it the office of the president or the deputy president's office, there is the face of Kenya captured in that organization. Because now when you look at these things, when you look at those names, if you read them aloud, supplier firms and directors, they come from the same village, which is disgusting, it's unacceptable, and we cannot allow. I don't know, if Ole Kaparo is going through the newspapers today, maybe he needs to resign. And the Public Service Commission, they need to resign. Where were they what have they been doing on the job with all these people from the same village?
Mark, what do you think about this? We have moved from NYS2, we have moved to sugar, we have moved to maize, and now Kenya Power. Very quickly, where did the rain start beating us?
First, new broom sweep clean, and I must commend the DPP for being that proverbial new broom for this country. It is an open secret in this country that Kenya Power has been a place where there is huge corruption. How we know this is Kenya Power is an institution that has the monopoly of power in this country, but they are always in crisis when they are competing with no other than themselves. Therefore, the only competition we can imagine is that the competition is among themselves to steal as much as they can, and therefore this comes as no surprise to the majority of Kenyans. But let's understand a few dynamics here. Number one, I expect that the Kenya pipeline will be the next big thing, and that's also in the energy sector. Why? Because if President Kenyatta is going to deliver on his Big Four agenda, he has to deal with corruption. And one of the places where the corruption hits the country most is in electricity and the supply of electricity. If electricity is not able to be supplied in this country because people are doing corruption deals with the transformers, meaning that our bills will be more expensive at the end of the day, it means you cannot ever achieve the manufacturing agenda that you have. But to address the issue that Dismas has quite correctly pointed out, that this seems used to be a coalition of village mates meeting at the boardrooms of Kenyan Power to divulge our funds into their own kitties. The fact of the matter is that this speaks for itself. And this is not, by the way, a village matter. This is a corruption matter, domiciled among cronies and nepotists, because I am very sure the village these people come from has not changed. And that's the biggest problem with the kind of corruption we have. The kind of corrupt people we have in this country are not creative enough even to go build a home for their mothers, let alone change their village. This is not a village issue. It is a family issue. These are 2-3 people who want to control resources for their own sake and gain without due consideration, not even for their own families or even for this nation at large.
All right. Kipchumba, we are talking about 4.5 billion. If you can just maybe explain to us, because this is a legal issue. So at the center of it was a contract to supply transformers, a contract of worth 4.5 billion shillings, which was terminated, and then later a settlement was reached. How does this work? And of course, this has now brought, what is your take on the DPP's approach? He has spread his tentacles to the former MD, Ben Chumo, the current MD, Ken Tarusu was at the time Chief Finance Officer, Legal Secretary, Beatrice Meso. Is he taking the right angle at this?
I think, as Mark has talked about new broom sweeping clean, it is for the first time I want to agree with the new DPP fully that we are in the right direction. When we find ourselves as a state going to the former MDs, which means nobody is safe. Even if you are to resign today, we will come for you. We are heading in the right direction. Right. And I must also applaud the multi-agency task team that is working on these cases. That, one, we need to see a sustained fight on corruption from each sector. We should not only be bothered about NYS and everything. The other thing is this, reading the details of this scandal yesterday in a newspaper. I was very shocked that there was a settlement that was registered in court, but the details were not registered. That in itself is very telling, that you can go and tell a court of law that we have entered into consent of public funds and you do not deposit the consent in court. You just tell the court in passing. How is the public supposed to know which kind of consent was entered? And secondly, these being public matters, how do we enter into consents that do not safeguard the interest of the public? In terms of any public litigation that entails government and public resources, any consent that is being entered should be to reduce the liability to the normal mwananchi. Right. And this being the energy sector, I think the president has a point by going hard on these people, because he cannot deliver the big four without power. Right. And power must be, the cost of power in this country, we are still the highest in the region, selling one unit at around 11 cents, while the other people in the region are doing at 7 cents. Right. Which means we cannot compete enough. All right. With the boys in the region. So that is the splash on the Sunday Standard this morning. Story in more detail, page 6 and 7. You can check it out in more detail. We will keep an eye on this for you. The investigations continue. The DPP tightening the news on the Kenya Power. Also on the Standard and also on the Daily Nation. Of course, we can't ignore this story. Former U.S. President Barack Obama is coming back home. We're calling it the homecoming. He will be going to Kogelo in the county of Siaya for some community service. He has been on some global tours. Dismas, is this a big deal?
That Barack Obama is coming back to Kenya? Of course, that's a big deal. We need to be very proud as Kenyans that our son, after serving for a successful term, is coming back to Kenya to give back to the community. And recall, he has set up the Obama Foundation, which is identifying a number of leaders that may be groomed to take up future positions. And you recall, he's among the few Kenyans who actually keep their word. I know folks will be asking, is Obama Kenyan? Of course he's Kenyan. And when he came here as a president, he said he'll be coming back when he retires from office, and he's coming back. But unfortunately, I don't think we are taking advantage of that resource we have in the U.S. The current administration should be all over rolling the red carpet for Obama and maybe using him as a special purpose vehicle for international assignments. Because if you speak to Obama, he can assist us rebrand Kenya. Can you imagine if the folks running the tourist authorities in Kenya, like say the Kenya Tourist Board or Brand Kenya, had planned major activities around Barack Obama? Like for instance, host, say, a news conference at a national park, say someplace maybe Serena or Nairobi National Park, and you have the international media coming to that park. That would give us a lot of visibility, or even identify a course that they can ask Obama to champion.
But that would need a lot of, that would have a lot of red tape. You need to pass through White House with the Secret Service. There's a lot, there's a former US president, right?
But Obama, no, but Barack Obama runs a foundation called Obama Foundation. And you have the Kenyan...
So do that through the Obama Foundation?
Yeah, you go through the Obama Foundation, even if it's going to be bureaucracy and red tape. But at the end of the day, it could even take 1 year.
Yeah.
But just imagine that Barack Obama coming with all these international journalists to accompany him, then coming to the Nairobi National Park and doing a news conference, and going round and the event is covered live. That would give us a lot of mileage.
Mark?
This is a good opportunity for Brand Kenya to stop fighting with our players and actually take an opportunity to brand our nation. They're asleep on the job. This is the time when you watch CNN, you should see pictures of Obama coming into Kenya. You should see us flaunting our flora and fauna to the nations. And this is exactly what Dismas is talking about. We are sleeping on the job on very, very many facets. Obama, having come from Kenya, is a unifying figure for the Kenyan people. Where is the Reconciliation Commission? They should be moving truckloads of other tribes into Kogelo to go see where Obama came from. So there's a myriad of opportunities, not in terms of just the Obama Foundation, but things that we can do for ourselves on our own 2 feet to be able to brand our nation and to unify our nation. Barack Obama has the foresight to be able to meet both President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. What are we doing about that? What is the opportunity that the eminent persons commission that was gazetted the other day by the president, what are they doing about this? This is another handshake opportunity that is will basically go by the wayside. Let's not also forget the economic opportunities that this brings in terms of the fact that an ex-president of the United States can go into Nyanza and find accommodation, and his entourage find accommodation, and the airport works and things like that. All of those are marketing opportunities for local businesses that can then say, when you come into Kenya, you do not need to go to the coast, you do not need to go to Nairobi. Come to Kisumu, we have 5-star accommodation, we've got roads that work, and we've got things that you can see from Lake Victoria to Kitmikai and all these things that are amazing about Kenya. So this is the opportunity. Either we brand Kenya as amazing, or we become amazingly stupid and miss the opportunity.
Kipchumba. Yeah.
Rwanda, a very small country compared to Kenya, is using Tony Blair. And Tony Blair has no relationship at all with Rwanda. UK did not even colonize Rwanda. But Kagame has got the foresight to use Tony Blair for these international initiatives. For us here, we have a gentleman who has come to Kenya and he said, I'm an American of Kenyan origin. Can you imagine how much value Obama would deliver if President Kenyatta would have a cup of tea with him and tell him, please get for me 5 Fortune 500 companies to come and invest in Kenya.
Yes, and even Rwanda have signed a deal with the biggest club in the world, Arsenal, to market them. So they have that foresight. Kipchumba, this story dates back to the 1950s when Barack Obama Sr. Got that scholarship to study in the US. So the Barack Obama, the president story, is very much part of our story, isn't it?
I think the Obama story, the Obama Senior story is our story, and it's the story of the hardworking Kenyans who have relentlessly fought for a dream. The dream for a better future, the dream for a better nation, and the dream to make sure that the generations to come will have something to inherit in terms of an heritage, in terms of a rich culture, and also in terms of a better world. But come to it, look at the opportunities around Obama coming to Kenya. Today, we are discussing Kenya Power and DPP strikes, where it is an opportunity for us to show the world that we own Obama. And Obama has not denied his roots in Kenya. is a Kenyan by all descriptions of who he is. What we need to get from this is, one, Obama being the best export we have as a country. He's the best thing that came out of this land, outside our sportsmen, our athletes. We need to utilize and harness that opportunity. And the ratings he has, recently I saw the ratings, he still enjoys a favorable number. He remains the most popular former president in the US. We need to enjoy that, to use that and pursue causes in Kenya, whether climate change, HIV, or cancer. If today we asked Obama to help us set in this country a state-of-the-art cancer center, it can be done. He asked the few people. Secondly, I have not seen any advert by the Ministry of Tourism telling us about the Obama coming. His coming to this country can change the fortunes of our tourism ministry. It can. Look at what we have not seen any communication from the Council of Governors, and they are the greatest beneficiaries for this visit, because Obama will not spend his entire time in Nairobi. He will be in the villages of Kogelo, which means we need to see traction from those counties. The other point is this: Obama coming to Kenya is a feel-good moment for this country. It's a moment for us as a country to come together and feel and do away with the dejection that we have always gone through as a country about corruption, high rising cost of living and everything, and have that moment, savor the moment as a Kenyan people. Look at what happened recently in the UK, in England. After England lost, the country was more united than ever. That is the moment for us.
All right. So, of course, we will be covering for you this in the only weekend, the homecoming of President Barack Obama. Security under lockdown, the counties of Kisumu and Siaya under a very tight security. The Secret Service working together with the Kenyan security teams. If you're going to the village of Kogelo, you'll have to pass through a lot of security checks all the way from Rivayala. We'll be giving you the details. Now, very quickly, in just 2 minutes only, let's talk about a story that has been very much with us this past week. A story of unrest in schools, very quickly. And I know, Mark, you love this topic. It happens at this particular time, the unrest in schools. It did happen a lot in 2016. It is happening right now. How do you think the CS for education is dealing with it?
I think the CS is making very classic mistakes in that, number one, she's making roadside pronouncements that do not hold water. We cannot introduce a 16-year, 14-year-old, a 15-year-old to the penal system for being what exactly teenagers are, which is rebellious and restless. Number two, we cannot blame the unrest or just on the pupils. Let's not forget that our schools are overstocked. We are putting kids in schools as though they're matchboxes in a box. We have triple and quadruple deckers now in schools. Schools are increasingly uncomfortable. We cannot forget the fact that we still have an education system where it is the winner takes it all, just like our politics, where if you fail to get a B in your KCSE, your life is as good as over. These are issues that Amina needs to address, and we need to stop having this idea that in our schools today, Ben, you would not believe it, that a teacher has to be evaluated by a student. How is that teacher then going to discipline the student when the student is able to fill a form that says this teacher is underperforming? You cannot create a system where you undermine teachers left, right, and center and expect it to work. And then we have an association that comes up with even more bone-headed ideas of having the similar uniform for every student in the country. That is worse than colonialism.
All right.
Where is their character? So this whole debacle is caused by the fact that Amina Mohammed is not involving the stakeholders in the education ministry to talk with her and to advise her on how to move forward.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark, not Mark, Dismas, if I can get your comments on the same very quickly because of time.
Amina Mohammed is a lawyer, and if she's gone through the Kenyan constitution, it indicates that public servants, before you make a public policy, you must consult stakeholders. So who is she consulting? Did she consult parents and the parents told her, wait a minute, we don't mind having one uniform for all our students? when she wants to introduce students and telling them that they're going to be jailed, what happened to approved schools? So in my view, Amina Mohamed, before she makes a pronouncement, and for some reason she likes doing the pronouncements in the streets, she must consult all the stakeholders. The parents must be consulted, the teachers must be consulted, the guardians must be consulted, and even the students themselves.
All right.
Because there are so many issues affecting students that we must do consultation.
How come C.S. Matiang'i, when he was under, overseeing the docket of education, used to come up with very harsh, if you may, policies, but he didn't seem to get the same kind of backlash like we're seeing in Mohammed.
Ben, there is a problem when people believe, or it's true, or maybe it's just a belief made from conclusions that you are weak. Matiang'i as a person, his ability to stamp authority made sure that everybody knew, and Matiang'i delivered results for us. Mm-hmm. Although there has been a lot of debate on whether there were positive or negative results, but he delivered. You could see a minister who was doing something. Right. Look at it this way. We are talking about changing uniforms into the same color or something. What informs that?
That is what the parents want, though.
But at the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve? Look at it this way. These uniforms, each school has a unique uniform for other reasons. Why are we engaging ourselves inside issues? Right. And we have main issues. Corruption is not an issue in the curriculum. Ethics and morality are not in our curriculum, but we are now addressing side issues. The other point is this. In terms of punishing adolescents, these young pupils, and giving them criminal whatever, there is one problem, and I think the DCI need to reorient their focus. Mm-hmm. We have approved schools in this country. We have a whole system of criminal procedure for young people. Two, why are we punishing adolescents? This is a stage in life. Are we trying to say we can do away with the stage?
Would you prefer corporal punishment by teachers, schools?
No. We have approved schools. Secondly,
All right, let's
to finish it off, why are we still having boarding schools in this country? Those are just glorified prisons. They are group homes. Let us do away with
What happens if a student from your village in Nandi and they want to study in Nairobi?
No. Ben, the problem is this. Let us make education in Nandi County, in Wajir, and Makueni uniform. The curriculum is the same. Why carry somebody all the way from Nandi to come and receive the same
A lot of people would disagree with you, but that's a story for another day. Sorry, gentlemen. We'll find time for that conversation. A very important one. For the education system. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition. We are back shortly. When we come back, we'll be talking about Kenya's debt with China, the biggest bilateral debtor to Kenya, standing at more than 700 billion Kenya shillings, and to rise. Don't go too far. This is Sunday edition.